Hello. Here we good? Perfect. So, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Charles Jones, co-founder and CEO of Abcombi Biosciences. As Martin alluded to, we are a University of Buffalo spin-out from my dissertation. But what we really do is try to develop new vaccines and anti-infectives with a unique drug discovery process. And you can hear that, how it can be leveraged to numerous cases, but we don't need to jump into the technicalities. Really, what this is a four-step process where I can come into the audience and take bacteria that typically cannot be cultured or really be validated for drug targets, and we capture that and identify targets that other companies until today, that is us, can do. But specifically for the scientists in the room, what makes our targets different? It's the fact that we're one of the first to point out that simply colonizing or having a bacteria with you doesn't make you sick. It's really upon some perturbation, the flu messes up a bacteria, then leads to pneumonia, that you get that disease. So we're one of the first to identify this new subclass of bacteria and targets from that. But we have been fortunate from people in the University of Buffalo. A big one I want to point out is Margie McGlynn, a University of Buffalo graduate. Through her experience as the ex-president of vaccines and anti-infectives from Merck, we've been able to gather a robust team, most notably Stanley Plotkin, the inventor of the rubella vaccine. We have been able to get a team of consultants from the executive and senior leadership level of all pharmaceutical companies in total at each and every step. But what makes this very unique is the fact that we can take on larger portions of indications than previously possible, which today we're very happy to announce the first time publicly that we have a strategic relationship with the CDC with one of our influenza indications, which we will not talk about today. We're only going to speak to our pneumococcal because we have the most material for that. But looking ahead, the pneumococcal industry is the most profitable, most liquid, the biggest vaccine market there is. Valued right now at $7 billion to grow to $10 billion, dominated by one entity, that is Pfizer. They're going to cannibalize other players in the coming years due to the way they're indicated, their technological advantages, but we're not going to jump into that. The big takeaway is what they do. They're a high-priced vaccine that targets that colonization phase, which we said isn't always linked to disease, of 13 of the 95 different types. So that's the number I want you to remember. It's limited coverage of a diverse pathogen. They wish they could cover more, but due to the scaling issues, they can't. This is a lot of money is being poured in to solve this problem. As you can see by a number of competitors that have emerged, utilizing the same approach, but with the cost advantage being minimal. So it's a slight play to scale, but they all can't get universality. And this is seen from a clinical, a burden, economic problem where you can see invasive disease, pneumonia, if anyone has children in here, middle ear infection, is unmet. Globally, still a ton of deaths. And economically, this bacteria is the single biggest causative agent of antibiotic prescriptions. So that's an interesting fact for you. All related to the fact that they can't protect against all 95 different types. Very simple solution or a problem. Now, here's where we come in and make this very non-technical for everybody. We have the only vaccine to be developed that's universal in coverage, the only one that prevents against both that colonization and disease. So it's a very unique approach, and we're a lower cost. The way that we do it, we don't have the same constraints that current pharma does. But for the scientists in the room, everyone's always asking, we have 2 of those proteins identified from our model linked to sugars that the other ones use, but a higher valency. So they target 13 sugars, we have 20. So from an apples to apples comparison, we're superior, but our proteins give us a competitive edge. But that's enough of that. Our results have been validated in a number of world-class journals, with the only one to date to have universal coverage, all disease models, and independently validated. So it's been worked outside of our hands. Right now, we're scaling production. And we have some people in the room. We are part of the Johnson & Johnson incubator. We were named as a finalist in 43 North, although we didn't convert. Still a great opportunity to learn. We publish, and we've been in a ton of other opportunities. But we're going to get to the financials and really a high view of this. What's our plan to commercialize this, where we're in the preclinical stage? Right now, we estimate at great detail about an $8 to $10 million post-phase 1. But since we have someone from SBA, we have been very strategic with implementing SBIR's clinical trial translational grants. So our non-dilutive strategy has been what's propelled us, which they have a number of advantages. So please talk to him. He can speak to it, which we will be announcing another round in the coming year to start and elicit our phase 1 for post-phase 1. But we may ask, why post-phase 1? Everyone always, it's a safety study. It doesn't really matter. The reason why is something unique to our vaccine that most others do not. Post-phase 1, which is a very simple, we're one of the only that can determine efficacy post-phase 1, meaning the immunogenicity, the antibodies, there's correlates of protection from previous phase 3 and continuing surveillance trials, meaning once we go there, we see our antibody levels, we can do ex vivo analysis and correlate with high degree of credibility that it will work in a phase 2 and phase 3. Meaning from pharma, post-phase 1, they can make a decision on a phase 2 and 3 asset. That's the unique aspect here. But lastly, everybody wants to see this, but to the SBA concern, we're only going to talk a little bit about this. You can't see it that well. The income line, which you're going to see why. The way we accrue it is only government contracts that we bring in, which we're happy for the first time today to show a little bit more of our government strategy, which you'll see our indications, the amount, and the status. Received means we have cash in hand. It's been awarded where it's accruing. Intent to award means we've scored below the line, which means we're going to receive the award pending any unforeseen circumstances, which we're making a ton of progress on our influenza and other indications, which that goes into the next year and gives us about a 3-year runway to develop most of our assets to phase 1, which with our connection with influenza and the CDC and BARDA, that can be commercialized more readily. And the conversion of our phase 1, we hope to transition into a phase 2. I see him nodding yes. But beyond that, it's much of the same. But now I'm going to end with all this to really recap what it is that we do. You've heard a lot. Abcombi as a whole is a drug discovery company that has the ability to really leverage our technology to discover and push forward a number of indications. Most notably, we are the only one operating in the upper respiratory for microbiome. And from that, we have been very strategic in fueling our preclinical research with non-dilutive funding. We don't want to take on outside capital for that. And lastly, all of our indications had the opportunity to infer efficacy with only phase 1 data. So that's a big differentiator. So I'd love to talk to anybody afterwards. So a blitz of information. Thank you, guys.